for August 18, 2025. First item is review of the minutes from July 28, 2025. And then we also have review of the minutes for the special council meeting on August 4, 2025. Anybody notice anything about that? Okay. Thank you for that. Next one is an ordinance adopting a new zoning ordinance and map for the city of Bella Vista, Chapter 109, repealing prior zoning ordinances and maps and for other purposes. It'll be on for second reading next week.
So I can, if I can just say one thing generally to all of you, you'll see on the agenda there are some amendments, and you normally don't see amendments on the agenda because they're not a separate item. But because there are a number of them, and also so that you can have them beforehand and to provide some sort of order to things, we've just listed them on the agenda. For them to be voted on, you know, someone would have to move the amendment and second it and vote to actually amend the proposal. But the ones that are in the packet are what are reflected on the agenda. So it's all under item C, but under the second reading of item C. But that's why the agenda looks a little bit different. Excuse me.
Would we amend at the same time as voting on it, or should we amend as we go, in your opinions?
Well, the way I saw it happening, whether it happens that way or not, we'll have a second reading. You may not be ready to amend anything next Monday. I mean, there'll be another reading, or we'll see what you do. I don't want to presume anything. But, so it would be read for the second time. Of course, you know, as there's a discussion. And then, you know, someone could make a motion to amend one or more of these, and there would be a debate on each one, just as you go. Whenever you're through moving and amending, then you're still on the main question. It would still be on second reading, and then proceed on. So, you know, some of these amendments may be adopted, some of them may not. And so at the end of the meeting next week, after we go through that process, you'll see an amended version for the next meeting. So, you know, that some of the wording is going to change, potentially some of the maps. It depends on what you do. And those will be incorporated, and so then you would have a complete, as amended, proposed ordinance for the packet. And then I would also add that part of the reason why we added these on here with everything in the packet the way we did is just so that there's public notification and knowledge about this. We've talked about amendments, and you know, you don't want to spring anything on anyone. We're not trying to do that, so we just want to make sure those were put in there clearly.
Wendy?
With the amendments, if we weren't ready to pass amendments yet, but wanted to wait until the third reading in September,
Don't move them. Just
hang out those.
Just don't move them. You could.
So be read.
Yeah, they don't have to be. They're not subject to the reading requirement. The amendments are not something that have to be read 3 times. These are just motions to amend to do this or that. And so during the general debate on second reading, you can talk about potentially amending things, you know. But once someone moves an amendment and seconds it, then the debate is limited to that amendment, and then there would be a vote on that amendment, and you could stop there or do more amendments.
Well, hypothetically, if you passed, let's say you passed several amendments, could you go ahead and vote on the whole ordinance as amended, or should you, because of all the rewording?
Well, you could, because, I mean, it's amended as of the vote, so certainly you could, if that was a desire.
I do have a question.
Great.
As far as, just for general knowledge, but if like say by next month, we get into an amended, do we have to have an amended version in writing turned in at a deadline?
Any amendment that's offered by rule has to be in writing.
Okay.
So, and those writings have been put in the packet, so they are written. And as you offer them, you have to be in writing to be amended, or to be discussed and moved, excuse me. And, you know, there's no rule that says we've got to then in turn fold it all together in one package for you to vote.
Right.
You know, it's, so that doesn't necessarily have to happen. And Taylor may have something to add on this, but, you know, if say you go to meeting next week and you adopt an amendment, maybe you want to talk about the rest of them. Well, for the third reading, or the next time, we will have incorporated that into the proposal, and then there may be other amendments as well. It's like we always do. It's just so big that, and there's a lot of stuff that we're adding and taking out. We're just trying to
Right.
keep it organized.
Well, I'm just asking for clarification
Yeah.
for everybody, or
So
everybody.
it's not one where, wait a minute, we've got to reprint it all out before we can do anything. That's not the rule.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
As a practical matter, we've found in the past, if it's good to get your amendments in a little bit ahead. If you bring it to the meeting and it's in writing, you're expecting everybody to read it, and it's probably not going to pass. You know, it's a lot for people to absorb on the fly usually, so,
That's my point.
yeah.
Each of the amendments that are shown here have a reference where they'll be incorporated in the document subsequently, so you can relate to that. If you look at the section 109 as an example, the first amendment it goes in 109-114 sub E sub 7, and that talks about the septic tree lot preservation issue. So
I did have one, not to interrupt you, of course, but Taylor, these amendments, and I meant to, forgive me for not asking about this, did any of these actually amend 107?
No, they're all
Oh,
109.
they're all 109? I want to make sure, okay, all right, then we're fine.
my question really is in the First Amendment. There's a section crossed out. Does that mean it's not recommended or not proposed or whatever?
The tree preservation, I believe the intent is to strike that requirement entirely. So just to remove, to strike.
Small cell or?
I'm talking about B, item B of the document here.
The second amendment, Jason, to
Yeah, we're
C.
kind of
Oh,
getting
I'm
out of
sorry, the
order.
septic tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So the red strike is just a strike, a
Yeah,
remove.
that would be removed.
So that's language that's in there now.
It's in the big draft that you have for C.
So that language is in the draft now, and you're proposing taking that out and replacing it. Is that right?
When you see an amendment, it's going to make the changes that the amendment says. So if it's got lines through it, those will be deleted.
Okay.
And then whatever additional wording would be added.
That makes sense. Yeah, makes sense.
If you're talking about what I think you are, I think that was a proposal by Travis Hart.
Yeah, but all of these were staff, except
Yeah.
that Travis had one and they had to do with.
Yeah,
Well, one's plan commission with the public hearing.
Yeah, well, yes.
okay. So, I don't know if people want to ask Taylor questions in general before we get into the amendments, or you just want to start working on the amendments. What's your,
That makes sense. I need to be.
okay, why don't we start going down the list then? First amendment is adding small cell permitting requirements to the proposed zoning ordinance as recommended by the planning commission.
So this is an entirely new requirement, so just best practice, we felt that it would be best to have a public hearing on this since it wasn't included in the public hearing draft of the zoning ordinance before you. No mention of small cell at all, and so since it's entirely new, we notified the public, had a public hearing. No one came to speak, but just wanted to go ahead and cross that off to make sure we're compliant with state law. But essentially, another state law requires that we have to have a very specific ordinance if we want to permit small cells, which are basically like tiny monopoles along the street, typically for cell service. They're not the big towers that you typically see on top of the hills or water towers. There'll be equipment on that. It's a pole that's 50 feet or less. And state law said on top of having to have a specific ordinance to permit them specifically, the city has to allow them to be constructed in the right-of-way. And so to have any say over what happens in your right-of-way, you need this ordinance to do that. And so this was at the request of the mayor, recommended by our staff attorney and planning commission as well. And we wanted to get that in with this draft of the ordinance. So that way, as we start growing, the more people we have, the more cell service we need. And we all know that Bella Vista is full of hills and ravines. These will become more of a topic. And so for us to be a step ahead, to have that permitting requirement in stone as state law requires, this is before you tonight and tomorrow or next week for a first reading. So.
if I could add one thing to that. The state passed a specific law on small cell installations 6 years ago. I can't remember.
In 2019.
In 2019, so 6 years ago. That really restricted the locality's ability to restrict these installations. It's pretty much a free-for-all with their right to install these things under the rules of state law. And it still is, but there are certain things that the locality can do. And so this is an effort to do what the city can do, which is not a heck of a lot. I think maybe Taylor would agree with that. But it is an effort to try to do something to make sure we, to the extent we can, have some knowledge and say so that we exercise it. But like I said, they basically have a right to install these. And we're not, when we say small cell, we're not talking about these giant cell towers that people are thinking about when they hear cell tower. These are smaller things, and they were intended to promote, I guess, 5G, or they were originally a different technology that didn't have as broad of a range. And I'm going back, I'm not technical on this, but they became more viable as the technology got better. I can put it that way. And we never dealt with it here until, what, 3 months, 2 or 3 months ago, 4 months ago.
We started to have conversations, yeah.
And pretty much they're going to do what they want. And so we had development approval. I guess they did get a permit, but there really was no way for us to deny a permit or.
They haven't applied yet.
They haven't. Oh,
Okay.
this
Still
is
in the
Verizon,
pre-app,
I think.
yeah.
So if they can just pretty much do it anyways, and then now we're going to require them to get a permit, and if they don't, we can fine them $500?
Well,
Is that how I understand this?
essentially, we're trying to have say over the placement since it's our right of way for safety. So it's going to be making sure they're not in sight triangles, or if they're not within a certain other infrastructure type thing. And then aesthetics, so that way there's not wood or. I should have included a picture. Fayetteville, for their city ordinance, had a really great example for the reasoning as to what they are trying to avoid by not having an ordinance is basically a wooden stick with a bunch of
The pipe cleaner.
wires and giant metal boxes hanging off of it.
So could we accomplish that with an ordinance instead of having them get a permit?
This is.
We have to review it.
Well, I mean, you're requiring them to get a permit though, right?
So we can permit what's in our right of way,
It's
correct?
not a matter, well,
It's a guide for installation along with the permitting. The standard for the permitting.
And it's development approval. It's not, yeah, it's a little different than just, a building permit, but.
It's not quite the same. It's an approval, but not a permit.
I guess my question is, why do we have to have the permitting part? Why can't we just issue guidelines?
I mean,
saying,
that's just standard practice.
okay.
It serves as a protection to us as a community, as far as, like you're saying, I was on the planning commission in Fayetteville when the pipe cleaner was the big debate. I think Jason can appreciate, they painted that thing every single color to match half the sky, half the ground, put leaves all over it.
It's
I
a
mean,
is that the one on
that exists.
crossover?
yeah,
Yes.
it was ridiculous.
Yes.
But that's what I mean, is that
Solution.
what you're proposing is to safeguard our community as far as placement, aesthetics, and right-of-way. I mean, it's for the safety.
Well, everything we propose is, for the.
I
general
know, I
safety
mean,
of the public.
I'm trying
But
to
yes.
reiterate, I just want it expressed completely, so anybody that's watching, everybody understands that this is not, I don't know why everything's a permitting issue or restrictive or whatever. I mean, this is us as a community.
So so the city knows where they are in our right of way and our
Right.
property, what they're close to, and make sure they're not causing any safety concerns, and then aesthetic, yes, to prevent those situations, to protect the identity of Bella Vista.
Our power is so limited. I mean, we can request that something be moved within what, like 50 feet or 100 feet of a proposed location. That's as much leeway as the state will give us. So it could be that, it might work better for the city in terms of safety if it's 25 feet back this way rather than that. But if we don't adopt some provision, we can't just make that up on the fly. We've got to have something in place. So that's what this is.
And I think the state law specifically mentions permit requirement.
It does.
And this is typical of most
Yeah, and
communities.
then Springdale has one that's pretty similar to this. This actually was referencing off Fayetteville and Springdale in the state law. Those were the 3 reference documents made for this one.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, the next proposed amendment is removing septic tree preservation requirements as requested by Councilmember Hart. So these were requirements that I believe Planning Commission added to the, it wasn't in the original draft, and Planning Commission added it. Well, you can explain better, Taylor, exactly what it is.
Yeah, they deliberated and discussed at their work session, brought a couple examples to them to get the intent of what they are trying to do. And at the public hearing, they voted to add this new requirement, which is for septic lots to preserve 10% of the existing, not to create or provide more foliage, but to preserve 10% of the existing natural canopy and vegetation of the lot that is there prior to them starting work. And then also with that it be within the side and rear building setbacks where they don't build anyway. So that was the intent of mentioning that language in there. But yeah, that was included as a vote, as an amendment at the public hearing before it made it to you guys for first reading.
Anna?
Can you just clarify, for septic, is it where the tank and all of that is going, or is it the drain field, or is it?
The
for
10%
septic?
preservation?
Mhm.
Well, as
For the
written,
entire
it's,
lot.
it's of the entire lot. So if you have a 0.32 acre lot, then only 10% of that has to be preserved, and it's recommending or asking that it be in the side and rear setbacks behind the house. So septic, field, or tank can't go within 10 feet of any property line. So the portion that it can't go is where Planning Commission asks that they preserve.
And then they still have the requirement of 2 trees in the front yard?
Yeah, that's an entirely separate, different ordinance.
Okay.
So you're striking out the low density, and you've added that into this table as a part of the estate and low density residential. Do we define low density residential anywhere else except in the paragraph we're deleting?
So the portion that you're pointing at is what Councilman Harp is proposing to stay. So A, it will stay as is. This is what we currently enforce. He is proposing to strike all of this, so only require preservation for sanitary sewer lots.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But the low-density residential development sites served by on-site wastewater systems define what lots we're talking about.
All
There's no
low-density
definition for
residential.
low-density residential up there. So that you need to have another footnote down here, like you say, administrative modification. Put the definition of what low-density residential is meant to be.
No, it's already defined in the definition section of 109, and it's
It
a
is.
zoning classification.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Wendy?
Travis, would you mind giving like your reasoning?
Yeah,
Oh, dear.
absolutely. So basically, I talked to several contractors that do work here in Bella Vista, and they can't always accomplish this safely. I've mentioned it before, and it's worth mentioning again. At my house, they left trees, but they disrupted the root system so bad that now they're dead and caused thousands of dollars of damage on my brand new house just a couple of years ago. So if this is in place, they're going to have to do that, and they're not going to be cautious about it, is my concern. So whenever they can do it, I think they will do it. It'll save money to not have to, clear more of the lot than necessary. But sometimes I think it'll have unintended consequences, like at my house. So
And they'd still be required to plant the 2 trees.
That's an entirely
Perfect.
separate
Totally
requirement.
separate.
Okay.
What does this require as far as just vegetation broadly?
Or,
It's preserving.
Okay, okay.
So if there's not very, I can't.
because
fix it
it's
from-
existing natural vegetation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that, but but there's no, I guess, let me rephrase or redo it. As far as like I'm saying that, when the septic field is gone, or they're setting up the septic field, that entire area, obviously, they're not gonna be able to plant anything. But what we are requiring is just preservation around the property through that process, right?
Planning Commission wanted the unbuildable portion of the lot behind the house.
Right.
To be preserved up to 10%.
Okay.
And with the revision that's proposed, we will be reserving 25%.
No, because that's for sewage up top.
Yeah.
So this is for sewage. For
Well,
lots
no,
connected
it's
to
not.
sewer.
Right there, the first one, low-density residential is 25.
But
The
sanitary
whole section
sewer.
is for sewer, and then this is for septic.
That's what it says, Larry.
But
It's right there.
that's what I
So-
was trying to clarify.
If you guys vote to amend as proposed, it won't change what currently is right now. Right now, sewer lots have to preserve 25%
Okay.
of their lot. That's a current requirement.
So it doesn't change from what it is today. This would have reduced it.
But
No.
one of the top sections for.
It would have
lots.
added septic.
Yeah.
Currently, septic doesn't have to preserve anything.
Yeah.
Septic does not have to preserve anything right now.
A lot of our new zoning code is stuff we've already got on the books. And so, and then there are some things that are changing, and so there was a proposal to add that to the proposal, but now if you adopt this amendment, you won't be adding that to the proposal, but it won't change the other.
So really, there's two competing interests here. One is the people who like trees and are upset about all the trees being taken out, and the other is the builders who think it's, for various reasons, it's a hassle keeping the trees, particularly in the case of septic. And when we first made the rule, that's why we made people with sewer lots having to keep more than people with septic. And Planning Commission decided to make the septic a little stricter than it was.
Equal to those.
Yeah, and
with
Travis
sewer.
is proposing an amendment to say, no, let's have the
And to be
septic like it
clear,
was.
to be clear, I enjoy the tree line just like the rest. I'm not anti-tree. I don't want us to go, eliminate our tree line, but it has unintended consequences, and I have proof at my house and my
Oh,
residence
yeah.
of that. So
Yeah, you disrupt the root system of a big tree, you're gonna likely kill it.
Taylor, how do we handle when someone clear cuts a lot and then sells it to build? I mean, there's nothing there to retain.
So that's a really interesting question to answer, because if they clear cut a lot, they should have a GEC and building permit issued that they were intending to build.
You require them to get a building permit even if they just want to clear their lot?
You need to submit within 6 months per the current ordinance.
No, what I'm saying is I own a lot. I don't want to build anything. I just want to clear it off. So I would have to get a grading and erosion control permit, but I wouldn't need a building permit.
Those are super rare.
Oh, I know. I'm talking about a real rare circumstance. But then I sell it and it's cleared.
it may not be rare moving forward.
And we could be creating a situation where people might clear a lot to sell it to build. Because if the owner, see what I'm
Well,
saying?
I see what you're saying, but in that instance, they most likely may have cleared it without a permit, which would be illegal, and then you're transferring that on to the next person.
Well, I'm assuming compliance with everything.
Okay, assuming compliance with everything, if you don't build on it within 6 months, you have to restore it back to its natural.
So
You
they
can't
would
just
have to go back
clear.
and plant trees,
Yeah,
number
you
of trees
cannot
that they
just
put
clear
down. Okay,
cut.
that makes sense. I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the $64 question would be is how did you determine what trees, variety, and size were there
They
after
guess
the fact? And,
We do pre-permit inspections,
they inspect for the permit.
well, if they don't get a permit, you just clear it.
and then we deal with it on
They
the
have to
back end, and
restore
then
it.
our fund, yeah. Councilman Hughes, or Person Hughes has had a question for a while.
So sorry. This is homework I can do on my own. I regret asking this, but the vote on the plan commission, was it just unanimous or was it like mixed?
It was unanimous.
Okay. Okay.
Any more discussion? We're ready to move on? Okay, the next one is amendment clarifying the front yard restriction requirement for electric panels as recommended by staff.
This was one of the clarification edits that we told you that we would be bringing after reviewing with Carol, and then we met with them actually after the regular meeting as well to make sure that the whole intent or requirement wouldn't affect their side of things. We spoke with Mike Dodge, who represents Carroll Electric for our quadrant of the state, and his only concern was that if we did start requiring them to be how they used to be in the side or rear, that if the yard was fenced in, that he wouldn't, or his staff or representatives of Carroll wouldn't be able to access it. After telling them that our fence code already requires, and just the whole utility easements as their existence, our zoning code already requires if you put a fence and you fence in a utility easement, you must provide a gate and access to that utility provider so they can access their easement. After going through that with him, that sufficed his concern and he had no further comments on this. So the amendment that's before you today just clarifies where it's prohibited, because as written, there were a lot of questions raised after it was presented as to where it was actually prohibiting. And so this just point blank prohibits it in the front yard and then doubles down. It says it shall be placed in the side and rear yard, so behind the front plane of the house. So just for further clarification for enforcement or administration.
So do we say anywhere in our fencing code that if they enclose the lot lines, that they have to provide a gate?
Yes, our zoning code says that right now, and then the one that's proposed with item C also says that.
Do we need to reiterate that here?
No,
Just
reinforce that. That's just given language in our fence permitting.
Okay.
Any more questions? Okay, and we were pleased when we met with Carol that they were amenable to that, agreeable to it, so.
Well, that's a reasonable requirement.
Yeah. Next one is an amendment clarifying sewer utility installation design requirements as recommended by staff.
So this has been a project we've been working on with Village Wastewater during the lifespan of this project, is getting just minimum design installation requirements codified to help get a unified, even sewer's rare, but when it does happen, we want it to be uniform. And so working with them, we used their design installation as a minimum or as approved by the director for install. So in the weird or future situation, if we ever get another utility provider or the city somehow acquires utility and we start installing, that it's all at a base minimum with the same minimum design standards. So that way we don't start getting different sewer installs. This was in the Planning Commission work session proposal, but Planning Commission voted to amend it to an adoption reference. However, staff with legal is proposing to you all to put it back as written. Jason, I can let you allude to that. Is that
Well, so there's potentially a pretty significant legal issue if you legislatively adopt a private rule. In other words, if you say, it's only legal if you do what these people over here tell you, and we have no say-so over what those people determine to be the way to do anything. It would violate due process. In other words, when we say we incorporate Village Wastewater's rules by reference, we have no control over their rules. What we can do is we can adopt their standards, whatever those technical standards are for our own, match them, and then if they change them and we feel like it's appropriate, we can change them. But we can't just yield that legislative authority over to a private entity, basically is what you're doing. So the intention here is a technical one. It's not to change the intent of any of this. The point was to do what Village Wastewater needs, but except we're suggesting you need to actually technically install those rules in your ordinance rather than just saying just do what they say.
Larry?
I think we need to add one more provision in here, and that is you require in number 2, unless otherwise approved by the director, I think you need to add in here also as approved by the Arkansas ADEQ, because they are the regulatory agency that will approve this, and their standards may change and affect this code.
the Department of Health?
ADEQ is the sewer rule.
Well, Department of Health usually gives us our sign-offs on water and sewer
And
installs.
sewer? Oh, okay.
They only oversee the septic.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And we do reference them for the septic.
But I think you need to add that clearly in here, that it must meet the approval of, plans must be approved by the ADEQ.
We don't have the authority to
Department
make them
of
not
Health.
applicable. Because if they don't get their state permit, they can't do anything, whether we said that or not.
And I can verify in the big document, I'm pretty sure we already referenced you must have all applicable state approvals before you
I
get
think
your
we should
permit.
make the reference to it, that they need state approved plans.
I think the legal effect is it's already there, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, the state, we can't underride the state. I mean, if the state requires it, we can't, just by not putting this ordinance, not, acknowledge that. But I'm fairly certain that we mentioned it prior up in the permit or general requirements that all state and applicable federal requirements
think
must
that's
be issued
correct.
before you get a permit.
So it's in a different place. I don't want to assure you of that 100% because I haven't seen it, but I feel confident we've said that somewhere already in our code. It may
Well-
not be a part of that.
We say it has to be approved by the director. I'm assuming that's the director of the village wastewater.
No, the director refers to me.
The director of the department,
Oh, okay,
city department.
all right.
Okay, we could probably go back and check on that on the
Yeah.
DDA's thing. Next one is revising the proposed zoning map for boundary clarification, future land use policy, and other purposes as recommended by staff.
So we've had some recent replats and parcel combinations, I'm assuming for tax purposes. We can't oversee that, we don't know when it happens, it's something that one property owner can do. Go to the county and say, I want one tax parcel ID, and then it looks like on GIS, which is where we get our overlays from, that the lots have been combined. On top of the replats, which an actual property line's being moved, that is what planning commission approves and signs, and that does before it goes to Benton County. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about boundary clarification. We had some of those that we cleaned up and cleaned the zoning boundaries up to refer as well. Future land use policy is referring to, we found some common properties and they're called townhouse common properties as well. It's not just the basic townhouse property or regular POA common property that were zoned as residential, ranging from R1, R2 to R3. So we are proposing to change those to NP to match the rest of common property, to be preserved for the common enjoyment of those that are within that POA, HOA, whatever the townhouse association is slightly separate and a different level of approval for land development to take place on that. We also had another replat that would have changed the zoning. So there is a portion, for example, the 5 Oldham or the bike park, which now has a different address. They petitioned to change it 901. It's got a Bella Vista Way address now. There was a western parcel that was included as a replat they did recently. And so to make sure it matches the rest of the zoning, that went from R1 to CR as well on the very west side of the bike park property. And
So it was basically a cleanup.
yeah, and then we also found one single-family platted lot, platted residential for the single-family detached dwelling for their plat, and the overlay showed it as nature preserved. And so we thought we caught all those, but we found one more. So that is being proposed as low-density R1 single-family residential on this amendment. So yeah, it was a cleanup, and so staff, if we're gonna do this, staff would like to do it right, so. Instead of coming back a couple months later and asking for one, but. Happy to take any questions on that one.
Okay, I guess we're ready to move along. Next one's an ordinance adopting a new subdivision ordinance for the city of Bella Vista, chapter 107, repealing the prior subdivision ordinance and for other purposes, and this would also be on second reading.
No changes have been proposed from staff. I'm happy to take any questions.
Larry?
If we have questions and want to meet with you about 109 or 107, what's the best program to do that?
You can email me and we set up an appointment.
Just call you, send an email?
Call or email. Email is the best way to get me because I typically am back-to-back meetings when I'm in the office.
All right, thank you. I'll probably be doing that.
I've always been able to get a hold of her.
Yeah, easily. I went today.
What?
I've always been able to get a hold of her.
So,
Good.
very good. Okay, I think we'll move along then. Next one is new business and ordinance amending section 27-4 hours of trail operation, prohibition on usage while closed to the code of ordinances of the city of Bella Vista to allow 24-hour per day usage of shared use paved trails. You want to explain that?
Yeah, this one's hopefully pretty short and simple. All the trail audit has been going on with just the documents, cleanups, making sure we have everything we need to be on file. We found that the adopted per resolution 2022, I can't remember the other one, the acronym of it, but a resolution that the city council previously adopted in 2022 to be a part of the Razorback Greenway Alliance, which is a requirement per the transportation agreement we have with the other 6 cities. That all shared use, or the Greenway shared use path shall be accessible to the public 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As currently reads, that is not the case. And so staff is proposing to adopt what we've already said we'd follow into our ordinance, so that way our policy matches our law and make that accessible to those that need to use it, especially for transportation purposes, because that is the intent of the shared use trails that are paved, is that hopefully people will start using those to get to work. And sometimes people leave at 3 a.m. to get to work, sometimes people work late at night, so having a time constraint on that doesn't make sense.
So practically, what it means is our trail system, all the trails that run in and out the houses and on the dirt, those still close. Those have hours. And so we don't want people on those in the middle of the night. But this would be for the greenway, paved. That's what this applies to.
Razorback Greenway, Blowing Springs Greenway,
Yeah,
anything that's
with
publicly
asphalt or
licensed.
concrete.
If you're commuting to work, you might leave pretty early in the morning.
Or late. Maybe overnight people.
Okay. Next one is an ordinance amending the 2025 city budget in the amount of $20,119 to appropriate library impact fees for the purchase of library shelving and furnishings.
This
And
is actually,
Suzanne?
this is a resolution. It got
Oh,
corrected
yeah.
at one point, but
That's
it's
right.
actually a
This is a
resolution.
resolution. Good point. Suzanne?
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I'm asking permission to use some of our impact fees to help with some growth in some very important areas. Half of this request is for teens. You should be very proud of the teens. They are so active at our library. I've seen it grow 4 times since I've been here. There's not enough shelving for the materials that they want. So last year, and I'm talking about teens, just YA, I'm not even talking about children. So they checked out 1,700 items in 2024, and they are at that now in 2025 and growing. That's a lot for teens. And then, so I'm asking for some extra shelves to put items in for them, as well as some collaborative furniture. Come on. Because they're very active in programming. We added 31 programs for them last year. They're very active, and so half of this request is for our teens. The other is for fiction. Our population loves fiction, and we're running out of room in fiction. And so if any of you have been in the library and you see down the middle where you're going into the new area, that used to be tall shelving, and we had to remove that so that we could see the windows in the back. And that got placed in various places, but it didn't really work very well. So that was years ago. So what I'm proposing is that to add for fiction, to take the current wooden shelves, because you can't move them, so since they are stationary, you can't adjust the shelves for different sizes of books and that kind of thing. So it'll go up a little bit higher so you can still see the windows, but it won't block the view. And then the other portion of this is large print, because we have a big population that loves our large print.
Any questions?
We're growing. It's an impact.
Very much.
Yeah.
I'm just so proud of the teens, though, if you didn't know that.
Yeah, it's very encouraging to hear that. Thank you.
Okay.
So that is a resolution, not an ordinance. Next one is an ordinance establishing a business license requirement for qualifying businesses operating within the city, providing for classes and exemptions, requiring annual renewal, establishing fees, providing penalties for violations, and for other purposes. Taylor, do you want to speak about this?
We've discussed this, I had an open discussion recently with you all from staff, just recently, and I don't want to speak for Steve and his staff, but from my point of view, from a zoning and land use portion, we got together with fire, which is the fire inspectors that enforce our certificate of occupancy. So anytime you move or change ownership or a business relocates, they came and asked if we knew where certain businesses were moving, and we said no, because we don't require anything that would say that we do. However, they are supposed to call and check and make sure they have their zoning in place for their land use and make sure that if it's not being made more intense, etc., that they have their compliance achieved for zoning and development. So fire wasn't able to keep track of where the structures were moving or if they met their life and safety requirements. I wasn't able to check if they were meeting their zoning or the requirements that we've locally adopted here by council were being met. And I believe, I'm not sure, you can speak to the building side and fire too. Do you want to say anything on that? Sorry.
Well, I mean, I can, it just, this will help us be able to determine if a building is moving or relocating somewhere before they open up, they get an inspection done, or we do an inspection before they actually open up. Because believe it or not, we have people occupying buildings here in the past that have not been inspected by the building or the fire department. Because of that, they relocated somewhere else. They thought they could just do this, move into the building, and occupy the building. So with the business license, we'd be able to track where those people are moving from point A to point B. And it helped us with keeping track of where those buildings are, or those businesses are, every year. So.
And it helps to do on the front end. Staff, so it puts staff in a less, bad guy position, because if we catch it on the back end, like someone's moved and we've noticed a new sign's gone up, well, zoning didn't approve that, the zoning doesn't match it, they didn't get their certificate of occupancy for life and safety from the fire department, then we have to go in on the back end and start bringing them into compliance, which sometimes they need approval from you guys, and so that's not a quick process. That's anywhere from a 4 to 6 month process if they need a rezone to make their business or land use legal. And so doing that on the back end, it just is prohibitive for the business owner, and it's a lot of work on the back end. And again, staff doesn't like being the bad guy. If we had a process on the front end that we could use as a trigger or requirement to have those conversations before, yes, we require a business license and here are the checkoffs that you need, we would like to prevent any more of those difficult situations for the business owner as well as staff.
Makes it safe to occupy the occupancy. So.
But you currently require them to get a certificate of occupancy, right?
No.
So no
Well,
business.
fire code requires it, but they're bypassing it because we don't have any mechanism to catch those.
That's correct.
That's the issue.
Especially when somebody's moving from, well, we got a lot of that going on right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement going on right now.
We got
So-
people moving right now, so.
So if I rented a commercial space and that's open here, I could just start selling my merchandise tomorrow without a certificate of occupancy?
That's what's happening right now, and we're having to come in on the back end.
They'll
We've
catch
not
you
notified
eventually,
anybody to
but,
have their inspections
but
done.
you're right, you can do that now.
Well, if they catch me eventually, but I'm not violating any law, right? Is
Well-
that what you're telling me?
Fire code requires a certificate of occupancy. They're completely bypassing that. And if it's not approved in the zoning map is to have that land use there, they're bypassing city council's legislation as well.
Well, they're violating the zoning ordinance.
Yes.
So, but there's already ordinances in place that
But
require.
there's no tool or mechanism to put those in
That's
place
what
on the
this is
front
gonna
end.
do.
You can't withhold a certificate of occupancy if they didn't. The fire department can't do that.
Well, here's the thing.
We don't know
Find
the
out
extent.
about it, Travis, it may be 3 months down the road. They've been occupying the building.
Okay.
When did you move in? That's what happens.
If you want to see your name in print, just close one of those down sometime.
Or we'll see it if we're out doing our pre-plans, whatever, say, who are you? I mean, we don't have you in this building. That's what happens. We don't have a way of anybody coming in and getting something and saying, this person's moving in there to kick in that inspection or to kick in that certificate of occupancy.
So how will a license prevent them from illegally opening a business if the things we have in place don't already?
If we have a mechanism, typically when they call and ask if we require a business license and we say no, it stops right there.
Well, but I mean, right now he said there's mechanism in place, but we may not know for 3 months. Well, just because we require a business license, they can do it without a license illegally, and we may not know for 3 months still. That's what I'm saying.
I think the big, at least staff's point of view from the big picture is we're trying to create it to be a preventative front-end situation rather than a back-end compliance situation, because it is a very hard compliance situation when you have an established business that's open and running. That's what we're trying to help.
And I'm just giving pushback, just to be clear, because I think the city ought to do everything we possibly can to make it easier for businesses to come to Bella Vista, because that's the only way that we're going to survive and get the actual tax money we need to provide services. And I just don't want to do anything that would make it harder, more complicated, more red tape for people to come and open a business here, because they could just go to Jane, Missouri. So I just want to be clear that my intent is to make it as easy as possible for businesses to come to Bella Vista.
Anna?
What would be required for the business license?
The application checklist is in the ordinance for you guys. There's not a fee associated with it at this time, but it would be that complete application checklist would be turned in to us. We do a zoning review and make sure that the land use complies with the zoning ordinance, and then we would inform them that the building/fire code requires a certificate of occupancy inspection, and then their license would be issued. So complete application, zoning compliance, life and safety compliance.
Shay?
You had mentioned, I think, the last time when we just had this as a discussion item, that there were some issues that arose, right, in businesses in Bella Vista, like they only have a license in Rogers and not here. Could you just kind of run us through that again?
Well, that wasn't an issue. That was just more of like because we're the only city in the top, the big five that doesn't require a business license. There are other cities that can require business licenses of businesses that originate here that operate there because we don't require any. So Rogers is the example that was given. So because we don't require anything, they can require a license for a business that's operating out of Bella Vista in Rogers. Whereas if we had one, that would go to Bella Vista. That license fee would go to Bella Vista instead of Rogers, instead of outside of city limits. The other example I gave at the work session, I believe, a business recently, again, it's kind of what we're talking about now. It's opened, it's started having people come in, and it completely wasn't zoned at all for what it was allowed to have. And so putting a cease and desist, stop work, and then walking them down the rezone path, which again is 4 to 6 months, on top of any requirements they need to meet with fire and building code. That's just not a short path, and doing that on the back end is it's more cumbersome than it would be on the front end at a concept meeting, which is typically what we do with permitting requirements that we have now that are not single family or duplex related.
Larry?
There are cities in Northwest Arkansas much smaller than Bella Vista that have required business permits, which allow them to keep an inventory of what's happening in their city.
Well, this is a business license, it's a little different.
Well, that's a business license, yeah. In Centerton, for example, they've been doing this, they were 9,000 when the last census, the last one before 20.
There's also other cities that are getting incentives for businesses to come. They own utilities and they've given utility breaks. They're giving them tax breaks. They're inviting businesses by incentivizing them. I just feel like this is making it harder. That's all I'm saying.
I tend to agree with you. We need to be very cheap in terms of how much we charge for the permits, and there might be classes of permits because what I don't see in here is licensing of home businesses,
Exempt.
but I don't think they should be exempt. We should have an inventory for them so we know what's going on because the issues really are. There are businesses that require a lot of contact, so people come and go in the neighborhood, and so you get a complaint about coming and going traffic and all sorts of things. And home-operated businesses usually are not intended to have customers come to the door.
Wendy?
What is the fee that we were looking at?
That would be established by a separate resolution, assuming you adopt this.
Okay.
I think most other cities are $50. We were talking about $50 because that matched everyone else. But you set the fee, and that would be a separate resolution if you got this far.
For brick and mortar? Okay.
And you can, this ordinance gives you the ability to set different classifications of businesses. So if you think retail should have a certain amount of business license permit, but restaurants should do something else versus a service business should have something else. You can, but you do not have to do that. But it gives you that flexibility. Larry, it exempts home-based occupations as defined in the zoning code. So I'd let Taylor address, but there are limitations on that. But so if it's more than, it may be in the home, but if it consists of more than a home-based occupation, chances are they're violating the zoning ordinance by doing that. Like if they were inviting people in and this is your area, so I'll let you talk about that.
I mean, yeah, we have 10 or 11 requirements to be considered a home occupation right now. It can't occupy more than 25% of the GFA of the living space of the house. You can't have more than one person visiting your house. You can't have any employees. Business should be operated typically by fax, I don't know what fax is anymore, email, phone. But it's intended for just that sole person to basically work from their computer at their house. If people are coming and going and looking and coming to look at stuff that's been created, like a retail operation, then we start getting a zoning issue. Or if they have people working there, that's typically already
The
an
case
issue.
that you might have is that you have a home-operated business that sells things and people come and pick up their orders.
Only one person at a time, yeah.
Yeah.
Which our zoning code allows that. You can have only one person at a time that's affiliated with your business.
Okay,
I was gonna ask, if we do move forward with this, would it be your intention to make this list like easily accessible to the public? It would be nice if we tied it into like our Bella Vista, like Visit Bella Vista, and we could publicize the list, and that way these businesses at least get good exposure.
That would be entirely, what up to council. And there was a caveat on there as well. There's no fee in this, as we just said, but if it's less than 6 months of the year, then it's half of whatever you guys set.
It sets a calendar year permit, so all the permits licenses run from January 1 through December 31. And then if you apply on or after
June 1st.
June 1st, you pay 50% fee. So you don't.
25.
That's the concession we give you if you're a mid-year business when you start.
waiting.
Yes, this is more for brick and mortar. So if someone has like a home business, but it's a one table massage table, or if it is they're a CPA and they have a client coming in, they would not be impacted.
If they meet the definition of a home occupation.
Which, I read in the code earlier, it seems that they would meet that. With the previous code with the permissible home operations.
As written, this
Yeah.
does not require a legal home occupation to get a business license. So your person running a CPA, from their laptop, or if they're, tax guidance or whatever it is from their house, no one's coming to visit, or if they do, maybe every now and then one person comes to visit.
Yeah.
Their office is less than 25%. They don't need, per this version, a business license.
And my question is it good not to identify the home occupation businesses because it might be a benefit to them?
There are some cities that do require home occupations.
Centerton does for
Any
one.
LLCs to require, yeah, and then some don't.
Yeah, I think it's just a good practice.
So Section 4 gives the exemptions. And so the following are exempt. Persons under 18 years of age. So that's your lemonade stand kids, your Girl Scout cookie kids, your any child. Kids are doing all kinds of things now. Kids may have an internet-based business or something. I don't know. Under 18, you don't have to get one. Charitable or fundraising activities conducted solely for public benefit by schools or city government. 3, temporary businesses associated with festivals, farmers markets, or special events limited to the duration of the event. So our farmers market businesses or vendors would not have to get a business permit. We don't really have a community festival anymore. We used to have heydays, but if we, in the future, have something like that, the people that have booths and whatnot there would not be required to get a business permit. 4, religious organizations. So churches don't have to have a permit except to the extent that they operate separate business activities like a daycare, full-time daycare, or a school. So those would be required to get a permit, but just regular church activities, no. Home-based occupations as defined by the city zoning code, we've talked about that. And then short-term rentals, because we're not going to require them to get this permit because they're already doing the other permit business. So those are the exemptions. Pretty much, if you don't fall within one of those exemptions and you're in business, you're going to have to get a permit.
And those exemptions were based off the discussion from the open discussion and just questions that you guys raised. So obviously you guys can amend as needed, just that's what we thought we collected from the open discussion.
We have noticed that we have people call in from out of town and come in here and asking about the business license, and they're shocked. What? You don't require a business license?
Oh, I personally
They can't
have,
believe it.
yeah.
So
Rare.
it's an expectation.
Well, that's the only thing I'd add is, it's not like we're reinventing the wheel here. Other communities do this. Everybody's familiar with the process. This isn't a roadblock by any stretch. I'm sure we can all appreciate if you've gotten so far into a project and had to walk it back and then go at it again. I can certainly appreciate how hard that would be, especially with people who are not familiar with how zoning works, you know. My thoughts are, I mean, this is a great way to make sure everybody's on the same page from the get-go, just like you said. I mean, that's all this does, is just redirect and make sure that everybody understands what the game is moving forward.
Just streamline, yeah.
Sorry. For our established businesses, how will we, I know we talked about like giving them time to get, their stuff together. How are we going to notify them so they are aware that this is now a requirement?
Well, there's going to have to be some PR that we put out about this if you adopt it. There is I just want to point out in the ordinance itself, in section 7, we talk about, wait a minute, that's not.
Renewal.
No.
Transmission.
Effective date of section 9, excuse me. Businesses in operation on the effective date of this ordinance shall have 60 days to apply for and obtain a license. Now, keep in mind that the ordinance itself will not be effective until 60 days after you finally adopt it. So that's really 120 days lead time for an existing business to get into compliance. And I would, Cassie may be here, she's here, and I'm sure we'd be putting out all kinds of Facebook posts and internet posts and news releases and everything saying, hey, you got to get a business license now. And so.
The business association or,
No, I mean, anything and everything.
Larry?
Have we had any contact with the Bella Vista Business Association about it?
Not with the business licensing.
About this ordinance?
I have not.
Okay.
Travis?
This may be more of a question for when we actually are supposed to debate this, but I can't help but wonder, what has the city done to make it easier for businesses to come to Bella Vista? Because I think that's exactly what we need, and I hope I'm not alone at this table thinking that. But
I think that's a wholly separate
That's more
discussion.
like-
I mean, we could sit here all night and chip away at that.
well, have we done anything?
Well, I'm hoping the code reform we talked about earlier is definitely a step in the right direction with streamlining development, fixing the zoning map, getting more commercial, because right now there's not a lot of space per the zoning map that's adopted for non-residential uses, and so
Okay.
I'm hoping that will be a huge step. That was one of the leading reasons is to do that. And then this, I would hope, would streamline and make it a little less frustrating, is figuring out the steps when they have a clear path, a bullet point of what needs to be done, other than, because right now they're technically supposed to check with me, they're supposed to check with him, they're supposed to check with Roger, but there's no formal process. It's just we're expecting people to know the zoning code and the fire code and the building code. So I'd hope this would also streamline it for them, as well as hopefully give them more commercial space to operate down the road.
And for annual inspections, it helped us have a list here, a good accurate list we can match with our annual inspection list to get those annual inspections done. Because we have to inspect them.
Yeah, and I understand pre-planning, I know how it would help with that, and I appreciate that. Also, after hours emergency contact, I don't know if you're getting that based on a certificate of occupancy, but back to, we already have those in place, it sounds like. So they could still illegally open a business. That's my only concern. Not completely against it, but I want to be cautious. Thanks,
Okay.
Chief.
I think that was a good discussion. Next one is a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Sidings Martin Emergency Group pursuant to an HVAC cooperative purchasing agreement for the purchase of 1 RIT pack and 5 air packs for use by the fire department. Chief Sims?
Yeah, so the first item on there is what they call a RIT pack. It's a rapid intervention, what a rapid intervention team would use if a firefighter goes down or a civilian goes down inside of a structure. It comes with a pack, harness, comes with a 60-minute bottle that we can put on them or put on a firefighter when we're trying to extricate them out of that particular environment that they might be trapped in. We currently have 4 of those. And this one right here is replacing the one that's on our ladder truck. And our ladder truck responds to all fires within the city. So if something was to go down with the civilian or with the firefighter, we have a way we can provide air to them if they're trapped somewhere and their other air pack is not working. We have something we can supply air to them until we get them extricated out if needed. It's a common practice. We train on it all the time about how to extricate firefighters that may be down inside of a structure. They're with those lethal environments. That's just part of our tools that we use. Like I said, it's replacing one of them that's going on our ladder truck, goes within the city, and then the one that's on our ladder truck will move to the training center for training purposes and for backup. So if one of them goes down, we can put the other one back in service. But also for training, because like I said, we train on it quite a bit. And the other one is replacing 5 of our air pack harnesses for, we're actually kind of taking some older air pack harnesses off for our hazmat team, so we don't use the hazmat team response that often. But we're going to put these newer packs, probably on the ladder truck, one of our newer trucks that responds all the time, back in service. And the ones that we're replacing, folks, I want to say I bought those back in early 2000.
Wow.
So they're outdated. They were used good for the purpose at the time. Now it's time to replace them. There's either 97 or 2000 during. I think we got some weapons of mass destruction money at the time I purchased those. I purchased them.
Is there a rule on, or a guideline on when you replace those?
So, well, when I go out of standards, but we have our air packs, and our air packs are flow tested every year. As long as they pass flow test, they're still usable. Now they go out of standards, and we kind of watch that too. And these right here went out of standards. So I think those are, if my memory serves me right, they're either 97 or 2000 standards on those packs. So that we're replacing.
Larry?
This is part of your budget plan?
So this
upgrade?
is in my capital.
In your capital plan?
50,000 on
Yeah.
capital. This done.
So we have another one of these RIT packs now?
We have 4.
We have 4.
Yep, we have 4. We have them placed out throughout the city. This one's going on to replace the one on the ladder truck, and that's going to the training center for training purposes.
So the training center does not have one,
That's
but the other
correct.
4 stations have one?
That's correct.
Okay.
So it puts an air pack, it puts a RIT pack on all of our responding apparatus within the city. With this right here going on a truck that goes to basically everything in the city. So we don't have any bottles with the air pack because I have plenty of bottles. Those bottles can last up to 30 years as long as they're hydrostat. So we have plenty of bottles all I need is the backpack frames or the air pack frames. That's what it is.
Okay, thank you.
I should have asked this. On our consent agenda, we have our minutes always. There was the library resolution. Is there any desire to put that on consent or take it off of consent?
Take it up.
So individually consider that? Not,
Yes.
okay.
It's an expense.
All right, and what about the one we just did?
It's an expense too.
Okay, so you don't want that on consent either? Yeah, okay. All right. Just wanted to, I forgot to ask, so.
I have one question for Chief.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
You only need 5 packs?
So those are what we're replacing right now. That's correct.
Okay.
I don't know if there'll be any, if he'll have any in next year's capital budget, but right now we know we need to replace those 5 backpack frames for the hazmat. So like I said, we're going to take some older ones, move the hazmat, 'cause we're not doing hazmat every day, and we're going to put the newer ones on the truck we're responding today.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so far for the consent agenda, the only thing we have is the minutes.
Well, could I, what is standing out about the library that's,
I think it needs money.
Yeah, and getting family vote on money. There's members that would like to have that separate.
oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
It's an expense.
Next ones, they do have, I'm fine with leaving it on, but, you know, they have so many years to use their impact fees, and the library has some they need to use. Next one's a resolution providing for partisan primary elections for municipal office in the city of Bella Vista, beginning with the 2026 municipal election cycle and providing voter transparency. I think, Travis, you proposed this.
Yes, so first and foremost, just to clear up a common misconception based on the emails we've been receiving, this doesn't mandate that a candidate identifies with a particular party. It just gives them the right. They can still run as an independent. You can still collect signatures and get on the ballot and enter the race as an independent, just like we kind of do now. I highlighted some things that I think are beneficial about this. You would get to know the candidates months earlier due to the primaries. Financial statements would be made available earlier. I know somebody said that that's not true, but I remember specifically when I was running for office, somebody did, they mailed in their financial statements, which is legally allowed, and we never saw that prior to the election. This would prevent that. Elections wouldn't come down to a runoff and be voted on by a small percentage of the citizens. This would eliminate someone being elected in office by a runoff, because you would have to win your primary first. Transparency of ideology. Party affiliation provides a shortcut for understanding a candidate's likely stance of a wide range of issues beyond what's explicitly campaigned on. Clearer voter info. Party labels help voters quickly identify the candidate's position, values, and priorities. And also, one of the biggest reasons why I presented this to the council is because I knocked on 500 or 600 doors, and virtually everybody asked me that question. So I believe it's important to the voters. I believe there's a silent majority that really wants to know this information. So that's why I brought it up.
That's good.
Shay?
I just wanted to ask Jason, I'm sure you've looked at this, but it just seems surprising to me that we could change the way our elections run simply by resolution and not ordinance. But how is that allowable?
It's what state law says. So state law says that if the city wants to do this, it has to pass a resolution by August 31st of the year before the election cycle. So that's one.
And for whatever it's worth for you all, I did a Facebook survey, and 67% of the people that did the survey said they would like to know the candidate's position. And I think it was a small sample, obviously, it was on my Facebook, but still it was like 60 some odd people said they wanted to, so.
I think there's like 55 votes or so yeah, total of that. So.
55 what?
That's how many
I think
emails I
there's-
have.
Yeah.
Well, the number of emails is about
I think there are
95%.
I think there are 55
Yeah.
total votes on that survey, but can you go ahead and give a list of, which I'm assuming has to be extensive, partisan issues that city council and the clerk and the mayor would like be voting on or dealing with, like on our level in Bella Vista?
No, but if you look at Benton
Okay.
County,
That's good.
if you look at Benton County, they're a partisan elections, and they still take care of their streets and their
Benton
emergencies,
County,
so. The Quorum Court.
oh, again,
Well, that's a
that's not
different-
a city.
That's not
It's not
city.
a city, it's a county level government.
Okay, but they still take care of they have a road department, not a street department.
sure.
I'm just saying, they run smoothly, and like I said, I believe the voters want this, so.
Based on the emails they.
Well, I mean, so your Facebook page, do you proclaim to be a Republican or Democrat, or, I mean, do you have those leanings? Excuse me.
Well, I think we all have those leanings.
Well, but my point is that you're taking these surveys on your Facebook page, and I'm guessing that the majority of the people that visit your page are somewhat of the same mindset. So, I mean, I think it's a little disingenuous to have a survey that you're doing because you align with a certain party, and so I don't even see how that information, in over 20 years of doing this stuff, community-wise, I've never had anybody approach me as far as on the community level that something did or didn't get done because I'm a this or a that. I don't think that plays any part of this at all, so.
Well, I think it's disingenuous to say the voters don't care, because that's what everybody asked me when I knocked on their door. Virtually every door I knocked on, they wanted to know, so.
I would tend to agree with you, Travis. That's a common question if you do door-to-door polls or campaign. I mean, it is,
Yeah,
but it's irrelevant to the issue.
and I assure you, the doors that I knocked on, they all didn't align with me politically, so.
Do you think it's possible that that's just like an initial question people ask because they're not certain of like the latest issues the city is facing, or they don't really know how to engage in a conversation, and that a lot of folks maybe don't even meet a candidate daily, so they're just not, it's just kind of it's like hey Travis, nice to meet you, what do you do for work, right? It's not that I'm going to be friends with you or like you based on where you work, I'm just trying to get to know you, right? I think it's more that than like it's a super crucial question for them.
I don't know, do you think it's a possibility they actually want to know?
I found that hundreds of people that I talked to, fewer asked about party affiliation and just really wanted to know where I stood on issues. And that's what I appreciated when I was campaigning, is just the questions, instead of taking the shortcut and just relying on a D or an R or an I, because that's not really doing any kind of research or finding out like what's important to a candidate or what they care about. Like getting to know people and kind of talking about the things that I cared about, I felt like was a lot more valuable to the people that I talked to. There was a handful that did ask, and it was only because they really liked me, but they're like, but what are you? Because I really like you, but I don't know if I can vote, you know? So it was kind of one of those weird things where they wanted to rely on the letter, but I'm like, that doesn't mean anything in this case.
Yeah, I think you could still have all of those good conversations, even if we voted yes on this. You could still have those conversations. This doesn't negate those conversations, but I'll just go back to, like I said, I was asked that at least 400 times, I'm sure of it.
Wendy?
Just another thing to think about too. I know that when I was running for city council, I did not realize I was doing that. It was part of my plan until probably that May, when I had started collecting signatures. If we did pass this, and someone did not change their party affiliation or whatever, they have to file in November of this year for next November. Just make sure that's completely aware. So I think November the 3rd is the filing date when it opens. And so I don't know, especially on the city level, how many people would know, like, one, if you knew, like, when you were planning on running for clerk, it probably was not a year or at least 6 months in advance before you actually started running for that position. Just so people understand that's also, I think we would eliminate a lot of people who thought, oh yeah, I'd love to do this. Oh, I can't, or I have to, or because like
Right.
a
Or you have to wait for
affiliation,
another cycle.
or you have to figure out being independent, and then you're going to have runoffs because you're going to have a million independents running again. So.
Jay?
I just wanted to share my experience that when I did decide to run, which was the week before filing ended, that I did have to clear it with my HR department. And one of the questions that they asked was if this was a partisan election or not. And I you know, I wouldn't have likely received that approval if it had been a partisan election. And so another concern I have is that it would limit our talent pool in our elections for folks who work for places where they need permission, right? So that was one of their several questions they asked. But a lot of employers aren't interested in having their employees serve the city if it's in a partisan form.
And I'll just say I appreciate the fact that we're all sitting here working together, and it would just give me a little bit of concern if there was a requirement or an expectation that a party affiliation be like on the ballot, you know, for each person, because I think that could push people to push those that run maybe to both of the extremes. And I would just hate to lose like the focus on what we're trying to do, how we're trying to take care of the city, because we're all just here to do the best we can and work together. And we all see it in national politics, and
That's not this.
we want nothing to do with national politics because it's the wild, wild west out there.
I do understand that frame of reference, definitely, but I don't buy into that personally, because I know everybody's stance pretty much, probably with a 90% accuracy here, and I work well with all of you, so I don't buy into that. But
Larry?
I have one question about the last whereas, and it says, whereas partisan primary elections for municipal officials will provide transparency, but it will also provide more timely information to voters on campaign contributions and expenses. What happens there to make that
Because
true?
with the primary, you had to file, you basically run two campaigns. So you run a campaign for the primary, and then a separate campaign for and you pass the primary, a separate campaign for the general election in November. So you'd have finances from, I guess, people will be collecting money very, very early to run campaigns, because we all know campaigns are expensive. Also, filing fees are an issue as well, because the county parties do set the filing fees. So you wouldn't have a signature option, you'd be paying into a county. So it's a whole thing. But
That brings up an interesting question. A friend of mine is running for a judgeship, so he can collect 2,600 signatures or he can write a check for $8,000.
Correct.
So if this becomes a partisan program, are we gonna have an $8,000 bill to run?
No, if you're a part of the Republican Party and you wanted to run on that, it would be $100 for city council and $1,500 for the mayor.
For what?
For the mayor,
$1,500 for mayor,
and $100 for a city council member.
and for clerk, who knows?
I'm not excited about paying
And that's
anything
one
more.
party, and parties have their own rules.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that.
And that could be prohibitive to
And
people
they are
wanting.
increasing the schedule for that rule this.
All right,
So,
good discussion.
okay, the next one is discussion item, creation of a new severe weather committee versus reactivation of the public safety committee. Councilmember Hughes.
Hey, friends. So we've had some great discussions about weather, and I think that for all of us, the safety of our citizens is paramount. Everyone in the room definitely cares about it. I mentioned this to Jason about maybe the desire to create a new committee, and he said we actually had a committee that had previously been put on pause.
Well, we have a committee and just it quit.
Yeah.
There was nothing intentional about it, it just fizzled out.
I had a chance to talk to Chief Sims about it, and he seemed, I won't put words in your mouth, he seemed agreeable to the reactivation of the Standing Public Safety Committee, maybe it's like meeting quarterly or whatever the terms were set by that committee, just so we can make sure we have active information, if that's helping plan educational events, if that is looking for grants to help cover whatever the scope could be, because I know that we do all care about our citizens, and I don't know, I didn't look up, I don't know what the existing committee's like structure was. Do you have that, sir?
I mean, there are 5 voting members and 2 ex officio members. So the 5 voting members have to live in the city, and they're appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the council, like our other boards and commissions. The 2 non-voting are the police chief and the fire chief. And the duties, and this is in section 8-1 of the code, if you are so mind. The committee is advisory only. It provides its advice to the mayor and council on all matters directly related to public safety. The committee has no legal authority to take binding or legal action. The committee may adopt rules to conduct its business. At least annually or at any time requested by the mayor or council, the committee shall provide a report concerning its work. The committee shall work and report on any specific matters within its authority requested by the mayor or council. So the mayor or the council could task the committee with something if they had such a mind. The 5 voting members are on 2-year terms, and all those 2-year terms have now expired. Those people that were on our, so it's empty now. We've got the 2 ex officio members. So if there's any, and that's basically it. If there's any desire to, first of all, I'd say we've got a committee. I guess we need to appoint someone and have a committee. I think it's in the law to have it. But if there's a real desire to let's get this going, we're going to need to have some 5 appointments from citizens of the city that are willing to serve, and then set those up on 2-year terms and move ahead. But
Based on the applicant pool for the others, we won't have an issue with that.
we didn't, I'm trying to look, the committee existed, this goes way back. This is one, Steve knows about this, but they had this committee shortly after they made a city, they did this. And we had a transition provision in there that allowed, because the committee was bigger than 5, and so we allowed all those people to stay on the committee until, well, here's what it says. Until the end of their current term of service, members of the Emergency Management Committee, which is what we called it back then, on the date of the enactment of the ordinance from which this section derives, shall remain on the Public Safety Advisory Committee, even though the total membership will exceed 5 voting members. As members' terms expire, positions shall be eliminated and not filled until a total of 5 voting member positions remain. So we did not stagger the 5 people, so they would all be on the same term.
With that, because we know the AMP Commission, like there's certain roles that are filled, like how they have to be filled.
Mhm.
Like so could like somebody like of Travis be on this committee?
Oh, well,
Citizen.
the
Or is it
5
purely
voting
citizen?
members shall live in the city and shall be appointed by the mayor, subject to the approval of the council.
So if we were like, hey, Travis knows all about this, would be a great member of this committee, or is that a weird gray area? Sorry,
Well,
I'm a-
he
volunteer.
lives in the
Yeah,
city,
No, I like this committee. It's,
and
Yeah, you talked.
I can't say that it's impossible. The only thing I'm thinking about a state law issue that,
Okay.
but I kind of think it may be possible.
If it's just because of expertise.
Travis?
I like this idea. Could we ask Chief Graves about it? Because I talked to him about it a long time ago. And I think he said he wasn't necessarily a fan of it, or I remember talking to him. I just can't remember what he said about it. But
What would be the
I don't know if we've met
purpose,
since
like,
Chief Graves has been.
goals behind it?
so
Do you love committees and bureaucracy?
Do I like committees and
Yeah.
bureaucracies? Love them.
no,
Yeah.
I
Oh, we
remember.
have one for you.
No, Chief, I remember we had a discussion a long time ago about maybe, I called it a public safety committee, and you thought maybe it wasn't really needed at the time, or, because we had the Citizens Academy, and I just can't remember
Well,
your reason.
I don't know if we were talking about like ways the police department and or fire department have interaction with the community. I don't know if we had that discussion. I think I named off some of the things we did.
Okay, maybe that.
Right, so I'm not against this committee, it's just never been stood up since I've been here. I mean, Chief Sims has.
It kind of fizzled out because there's really nothing going on at the time. There's nothing new going on. Heydays had went away and some things like that. And Mayor Christie, when he come on as mayor, we had a couple of meetings, and then we decided to go ahead and kind of let it go because things were going good in the city. I mean, the police department was running well, the fire department was running well. We got all of our plans in place and things like that. There was really nothing to be discussing at that time for to have a meeting. That's why I was telling you
Yeah.
that spread it out a little bit,
Well,
maybe
how-
once
Yeah, thanks, Chief.
quarter or
Yeah,
something
how often were
like
you
that.
meeting? Was it monthly or?
It
is
was monthly.
Yeah, that seems excessive, but like.
I'm pretty sure, wasn't that right? It was a monthly meeting, I'm pretty sure.
I'm in my mind, I'm getting confused with the Emergency Management Committee, which was
Well, that was the
the
first
first thing that you were involved in that too. And then we
Then the public
passed
safety
this
committee.
and changed that, and folded it all in. And I don't remember how often they met.
I was thinking
Frank
that-
really was an advocate of it. And
Pretty sure we
the
met
Emergency
monthly.
Management that was, folding in the police and fire departments into the city, and we were talking about all that stuff. And am I right on that, Steve?
That's correct.
I guess it
It
depends
was-
on what the focus is. I mean, I'm assuming the focus back then was sort of like, what can police and fire do for the community? I think we're at a good spot and we're doing good for the community, but if the focus is weather events or something
Whether
different.
like or education and like, yeah.
It really don't hurt to meet as a committee, a safety committee, to make sure that we're still in line with everything.
We haven't done it in a while. I mean, if we had something, we'd hear from the citizens and, they could bring back from folks they talk to. For one thing, are we doing a good job? Is there something else we could do for them? That was our conversation, I think. I think I
Yes,
told you all the
okay.
programs
Yeah.
we do. But if there's something out there they want, we were talking about.
So if they had a meeting, would you and the fire chief be at the meeting?
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Yeah, I would assume yes. I would
Yes,
assume we'd
they're
be.
non-voting members of the
Yeah.
I was on the first one, folks. I've been here 18 years, so I've been here since the city.
This kind of went away by the time I was involved in politics, but I had the impression that, it was a new city, and so people felt they needed things, and that we're at the point that things were established and it wasn't needed.
That was my understanding when Mayor Christie hired me, sort of why we didn't do it anymore.
We were giving out tons of weather radios, folks. I mean, that was part of the committee was getting the information and stuff out to people. We were programming them. We had stacks of them everywhere. PD had them, we had them. We were giving them to people that come down that needed them back in those days. And like I said, we got to the point where we felt like we were pretty established as a city, as an emergency management team with the police and fire and streets, that Mayor Christie said, you know what? I think we don't need to meet anymore on this right here. Things are going good until things might change. And it's still in the law as a committee, so. Public Safety Committee.
At least on the PD side, on the fire side, just saying we have multiple venues where we meet with the citizens. I meet with the citizens at multiple venues at least half a dozen times a year, if not more. And so I think I would get feedback if they're saying, hey, are you thinking about this? Are you thinking about that? So, but again, I'm not opposed to it. If it's something that we want to stand back up, I'm not opposed to it. But I can't see a need for it right now, except for maybe seeing the want for the whole weather alarm system thing.
Or just figuring out like weather safety preparedness or education. We've had some people move into the community who are just unaware of the resources and the options, or they're short-term rental owners, and maybe they're unaware, like their customers, their guests aren't aware of the safety options either, or they're staying in Bowling Springs. So just having education like across the board. But also thank you for moving that night out, the police-wide night out from August to October.
Though, did you notice when it would have been in August, it was cool?
Yeah, it was. So I do appreciate it.
Larry, I got Shay here first. Shay?
I was just gonna ask, if we were to move forward with this, is it really kind of on the mayor, or do you need something from us, or
Well,
does
I
the mayor
mean,
feel?
the mayor has to appoint 5 members for there really to be a functioning committee. And then that would then appear before, come to you for approval of those appointments.
But it's already on the books.
Yeah, it's already created, so there's no law that needs to be created to
So we
do
just
that.
open applications? Or
Good.
how do you feel about it?
I feel pretty so-so, but to be honest, maybe it would make citizens happy to be involved,
Would you like to be involved?
Yeah, from that point of view.
I like it just I like it as an example of an opportunity, like they're already doing a lot of events within the city for the residents. And so we have the tent that talked about, all these different things. If there was one more that talked about weather, if we could get our hands on more radios, and we're just sharing the information of, is your phone set up? So you're gonna get the weather alert. That type of sort of education. If we're not already doing that, if we have that group that's
Or
gonna be at some of those events.
Helpers to help.
Helpers, yeah.
Ambassadors, yeah.
Ambassadors.
Larry?
I think it would be ideal to open this subject up for the monthly meeting that the city and the POA have to introduce new residents. Would be
The
an
quarterly
ideal
meeting.
example of an important agenda item for that meeting.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
maybe a handout flyer to tell them all these things.
It'll be in October, I think it's the next one.
And so the city could fulfill that need by doing that job.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean educating people at the
To
newcomers
speak about it
meeting?
at the newcomers meeting and
Yeah.
have a flyer there on the desk that can pick it up if they want to. Or how do you get on the county call list and how do you do this and what
Yeah.
about the weather reporting
Yeah,
and
that's a good idea.
get all that stuff together. Our public information officer probably has all that information already. Just putting it down, consolidating it and making a handout.
Okay,
Good service.
okay, so I guess we'll take that under consideration. The next one is, we should have had Travis Hart's name on here also, but Frosty Marriott has been very patient.
Thank you,
and
Frosty.
has waited for his turn here. So.
You all have information, I didn't, I was a no-show, and you had me scheduled at the first of the meeting, so I know how this works.
Just speak up, Frosty.
Okay, I will, here's when I get started, I hope. Let me get a second. Hey, Wanda, when you get to this part, would you, in just a second, I'll tell you when they pass it, by the way. So, hi, everybody, I think I've met most of you, maybe not the attorney, but anyhow, so it's good to see y'all. I appreciate what you do. Thank you for having me here tonight. Opportunity to raise awareness of a growing issue of roadkill in our city and in Northwest Arkansas. I'd like to share with you how we were at the same place in the Roaring Fork Valley in Colorado in 2008 with roadkill, and we had multiple elk and deer being killed every day on Highway 82 from Glenwood Springs to Aspen. And now we've come to a point where with work that started back then, so almost 20 years ago, and so it doesn't happen fast, it just has to have some vision and just get started with the issue. But now we've got wildlife fencing on the highway with escape ramps. and we've got underpasses, and now I'm building a virtual land bridge over Highway 82 so that all wildlife can cross in that area. And I think that's going to be the third one in Colorado. Anyhow, I wanted to share my photo that I took, which kind of got me started in speaking for the animals. This is my daughter about 25 years ago. I took this picture to the Colorado House and Senate Transportation Committees. Am I talking loud enough now? Whoever that said that. But that's when I realized I wanted to talk for the animals because no one else did. The outcome of this, I hope, will be that Carly and I would like to donate up to $5,000 to hopefully get a messaging and speed limit sign in Bella Vista. If we're able to get a committee together and research it and plan it and all, then we stand ready to contribute to the effort. That's how much we believe in it. I believe the good Lord created all these beating hearts when He created us. And in my research of biblical translations, it did not take me long to come to the conclusion that God gave us responsibility for these animals. Arkansas, I'm telling you some of you stuff you already know, but being nicknamed the natural state because of all of our diverse and abundant natural resources, it applies to the plentiful wildlife and diverse wildlife we have, which is something we want to keep and something, but we have to, I think, plan now to do that, to get started raising awareness. And I'm going to cut this a little short because I remember being in work sessions and people are ready to go, especially when the last person's talking. But the natural state is working for us because the Arkansas Department of Parks and Heritage and Tourism reported $7.3 billion in 2023, which was 2.5% of our GDP, and it's increasing. That passed farming in 2023, so it's big business for us having the natural state. The main causes of wildlife vehicle collisions, and what can we do about it? First, I think we need to get a good handle on speeding in the town. And I brought something just in case, because I'd forgotten about this, but the stopping distance tables, if you go at the top and where I've highlighted there's a thinking distance before you react to something in the road, and but if you're supposed to be going 35 and you're going 50, there's 21 feet difference in that. So if you're going the speed limit, you have thinking distance of 52 feet if you're going 50 miles an hour, which I see on Lancashire every time I drive down it, and other streets. Reardon, I think, is one as well, maybe. But so you don't really think of it takes that long just to react, to tell your foot to hit the brake. You've gone 21 feet further at 50 than you do at 35. So I think that's really important, and I think it's important to raise awareness on this issue. And because most of us all know that dawn and dusk are the primary times that the wildlife move, an hour before and an hour after. So I don't think everyone knows that. I know people in this room probably know it, but if there's some way we can get people to be aware of that, and I think that's why the signage would work, the messaging signage, because it has the flashing speed limit sign, and it says if you're going too fast, and it also has a message board which you can program to say wildlife in area, it's dawn or it's dusk, wildlife are moving, something to that effect. And so I think we should try that, the messaging first. And we used to use our water bills, which I know we don't send out, but we should be able to get the POA to help us. I don't know, do we send out messages sometimes with water bills?
The POA does, and they're pretty agreeable. Okay,
so that's one thing we would send in the spring and fall when the animals were moving in the water bills for a couple of months. Be prepared. The time's coming up when you need to be more aware of wildlife.
And yes. That proposal would need to go to the POA because they own and manage and operate the water system.
Right, I understand, that's why, but that's what Shay just said, she thought, or was, oh, it's Wendy, sorry. But hopefully they're cooperative, I understand.
They've been pretty accommodating for good public information, so.
Yeah, so hopefully.
You need to speak to them.
Yeah, and I think, I think it's gonna require unfortunately, a committee of some sort to do this. I volunteered to be on it. We need a liaison from the town council, and then maybe somebody with streets and all. But I think, because we're going to have to work with the state when we start doing this, and then we have to really remember that another reason the animals move so much is loss of habitat and fragmentation of the habitat. And so we see that all the time with the lots getting cut, and I know it's because of the septic tank for there has to be such widespread clear cutting, I guess you'd say, of the lot. But every time we do that, we're changing the habitat of the existing habitat of the animals, and so they have to move, and they're going to find water, and they're going to find food, and they're going to move when they're in the mating season. So there are different times of the year when they move more, and I think I put a call into Department of Wildlife today, and so somebody's supposed to call me back tomorrow so I can check in with them. Apologize, I didn't call them in time for this. I don't know why I thought I'd get somebody today, but anyhow, that's okay. But I think, what would have been nice if we could have done it, and it's kind of, was that if we could do planned underpasses fairly easily, because we have creeks that go under the highways. And so if when the construction was being done, we could have done where there was a creek, we could have done a wildlife underpass. We could have, I don't know if this would work per se, but might, where you do wildlife fences to kind of funnel them into that area. And the same thing with biking trails, I think. So in the future, maybe we try to plan for the wildlife to be able to a way to move over 71 especially, and other streets where we can do it. I think we should try to do it. And that would maybe preclude things like happened last Saturday on the 9th of August. I know Travis is aware because we texted about it, but there was a 6 to 8 point buck killed on 71 Saturday morning, and the next time we came by, the head was cut off, and the carcass was left in the median of the Highway 71, which I thought was it was heartbreaking to me. I hope we're all better than that. If not, God help us. But it's really, I can't imagine going out in the middle, please.
There was one killed on the West Chelsea a couple of weeks ago, and I drove by 2 days later, and the back half of the carcass was gone, apparently salvaged for meat.
Well, and which is not all bad, because we actually in the Roaring Fork Valley, that was one of the things that came out of, is that we could call Colorado Department of Wildlife and tell them there was an elk on the side of the road, and they would have a list of people they could call to come out and field dress the animal and take it to the shelter. And so it wasn't wasted, at least, and just field dress it so we could have. I don't know how to do that, but I'm sure some of y'all do.
Yeah, that was Frosty and I consider Frosty a friend of mine for about a year now. I don't know what he thinks of me, but we've talked about this a lot. And that was the most interesting part of that, I thought, was that we could feed a lot of people with the deer that get hit just in our city alone. Another issue that I campaigned on was I would try to do something about the roadkill. That's right around the time that the app rolled out, and I asked Cassie if we could add a reporting system on there for roadkill, but we don't remove the roadkill and know how anywhere to take it. So maybe that's something else we could think of. If we paid the Bella Vista Animal Shelter, maybe we could take it there to their incinerator or something, but or to Bentonville, the Bella Vista one doesn't have that option. So anyways, I love that idea about field dressing.
Yeah, so that only makes sense to do, and I'm sure we'd have plenty of folks that would be glad to keep the prime rib or whatever and take the rest to the shelter. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad deal for a lot of people, and so we should try to do that so it doesn't get wasted. And that may about.
Hey, Frosty. I think she has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Years ago, and I don't know if they still do it or not, but the police department used to have a list of people that they would call if there was a roadkill, and they used to come get them. And are they still doing that? So obviously you're not.
If you go back a little further.
They used to do that. We used to get them, the fire department used to get them.
Yeah, there used to be a list, I heard about that now that you mentioned it, it reminds me, yeah, we had a list.
And we've got,
one time.
the fire
That
department.
was before Chief Graves got here. Charlie Orr?
Yeah, but you know, if you get word right pretty close to when it happens, you can, if you have people that are willing to come out and field dress it. You can, because we try to do that when we go to the grocery store, the same theory, you just pick up a sack of groceries and they keep it there and it goes to whoever needs it. And I think that's a good way to, you know, to not have the waste. And there was some other idea. Travis, what was the second thing you said about? It was about the roadkill, right? And I know what it was. I forgot about it. I called the state and I had some conversations with them, and then I decided I was going to wait till after I did this presentation to y'all. But they were very interested in coordinating with Bella Vista or anyone else to get the roadkill picked up as quickly as possible. So, but I ceased conversations because we were going to try to talk about it at your meeting, and then we didn't have time. But I don't think maybe I'm the one, unless I'm on the committee, and then I can say, hey, I'm on a committee about wildlife vehicle collisions, and we'd like to figure out how we can get this done. And I'd be glad to do it, but I don't want to step on anybody's toes. Shay.
Does this sound like a public safety committee topic, perhaps, to anyone else, theoretically, possibly?
I could see how you
Yeah.
could stress it.
Okay, does that seem, I mean,
Yeah.
just thought I'd-
It would to me, because I think it's going to be a growing issue as we continue to grow and continue to lose habitat. I think it's just a matter of time before there's an accident.
So we don't need another committee necessarily.
So we've
just use
already
one
got a
path.
public service committee, so they can just go under their auspices.
So are you, I guess, are you concerned about particular roads, maybe Lancashire, 71,
Lancashire.
stuff like that? or-
I am concerned about Lancashire because we see a lot of collisions there. I haven't seen a big buck like I saw on 71, but I have seen at least one buck. Mostly they're doe and small yearlings, probably.
I saw 6 of them turning off Lancashire onto Camden on my way home tonight. 6 deer.
So they're just moving around.
I have a question for maybe for Tiff. Karen's not here. You might know. How agreeable is RDOT with us putting signage on the highways that their highways?
They're not gonna allow it unless it's their sign.
Okay. So no, unless it's their idea on their side.
Unless it meets their
They
requirements.
can approve it.
Yeah, so my brief conversations with the state were that they would have to approve the sign, and then they may or may not do a traffic study, and I'm not sure necessarily why they did a traffic study for that, but if they do, so be it. We're just getting started here. We're looking down the road, and so it just gets started and get some signage. And I see it as a way, even with the state, to kind of get them going on this, because I'm not seeing a whole lot, anywhere else. Like there's one deer sign out by the airport. That's the only one just a small sign.
Also, I think it's worth mentioning the sign that Frosty is talking about is not just a deer crossing sign. It's a lit up sign, and it's pretty cool. And his family said he'd be willing to buy one, maybe if
They're a little more expensive than that, but we'll make a nice contribution towards it and get it done. And these are the kind of signs we had in Carbondale. We had 2 of them, and we were a lot smaller than Bella Vista. Not like half population, but not nearly as many as Rhodes, but we had 2, and I think Bella Vista maybe has 1, but it's not a message sign, is it? It's just this blinking, maybe 2. You have the speed limit, and then if you're going faster than the speed limit, it flashes, and we had good...
the mobile sign?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the police department has one of those.
So we had good results with the signage, even more so than writing tickets, because when the police wrote tickets, the council had to fight a lot of heat from the constituents when I got a ticket for 40 and a 35. What are you doing? And whereas if you do the signage, they slow down, but they don't get a ticket. So we found it was helpful. Yes, Shay.
I just wanted-
Gravit has those signs.
I just wanted to thank you for coming, and I really hope that if we get a public safety committee going, that you will consider applying.
I will indeed, and so let's, yeah, and thank y'all for having me. I really think we should, like I said, I speak for the animals and people sometimes as well, but I do speak for the animals, and I really thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
And thank y'all for what you do and all your time.
Thank you for coming.
I actually have a little information I can give related to deer particularly. The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, I'm sure if we just asked them, they would be more than happy to talk about deer generally in the area. And particularly, there's this thing called chronic wasting disease that the deer is spreading through the deer. Benton County has been added to that list of counties that has some special rules about deer because of that. And they may be able to, it could be a way, in other words, to get them and you and other people in the room to talk about broader things, but they might be welcome to, they might like the opportunity to have a discussion about the broader
You
issue.
mean come to a council meeting?
Or or one of these meetings, or a work session, or a, yeah.
Yeah, I would look for it as something not just here in Bella Vista, but thinking big and saying, hey, let's go for it. That's what happened with us. We ended up getting the state to pass a nice law and everything. So it's worth doing, because it's just a matter of time for somebody gets hurt in an accident caused by that.
Oh,
So,
speaking of that, another thing, I've seen it happen, I know the chief has. I've seen somebody get ran over trying to save a turtle.
you saw somebody do that?
Well, through my job, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, but
I mean, saw the after.
yeah.
I
And
treated
that's
them
another
as
thing you can warn them about, because Carly always gets upset when there's a squash turtle on the road and spraying.
Yeah.
And
No, I've seen a severely injured trauma patient, a level 1 trauma patient that I treated secondary to getting, trying
yeah.
to save a turtle. Yeah. So when you talk about people getting hurt, there is a level to or a risk. So.
well, we can all take that all up in committee. And again, thank y'all for the time, and go home early, and or maybe earlier than last time, because you told me went till 8:30, right?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, but anyhow, thanks, and we haven't met Craig, right?
Craig.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Thank you,
Thanks, Frosty.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Larry?
Chronic wasting disease, the only way they can test for that is to take a sample of the brain of the animal in order to test for the chronic
Yeah,
wasting
and
disease.
they do it pretty quickly, I think.
They do it pretty quickly, but you need a brain sample to test.
They blame overpopulation to an extent on that, which of course, having more deer out in the street, it's all interrelated, the Game and Fish Commission has all the power when it relates to regulating wildlife in Arkansas, so.
I have one item that's not on the agenda for discussion, if I can.
Okay.
It was brought to my attention that some recordings of our city council meeting were used by another media source, and then they were told they had to take it down, and the owner cited intellectual property. And my question is, if it's a recording of our public meeting, shouldn't it be available to anybody who wants to use it?
It's whomever made the recording. So I'm aware of the situation you're talking about, and the city had nothing to do with it. My understanding was there was a complaint made to a social media company about a video, and the social media company took it down based on a complaint. And so whomever makes a video has the copyright to, this person has a copyright to their video. But I'm not an intellectual property copyright trademark expert, but we didn't take any action to take anything off the social media, I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah,
We wouldn't.
I guess my question would be, can we come up with some resolution to where it's not copyrighted so that anybody can view that or use that to their, because it's a public meeting. It seems like I'm
Public
not.
meeting, but it's not a public, somebody took time and effort to record it.
But we're paying them to do it though. The city
By
pays
law,
them to do
you
it?
have to
That's
record
part of
it.
our Benton County, our TV,
We have to record the approval.
So
Benton
they're,
County Community Television, we had
Yes.
an agreement with
Regular
them
meetings.
that they would record our television
Yeah,
shows,
yeah.
or record our meetings, I'm sorry, it's late.
That's how we record.
that's okay. Yeah, but we pay them to record it?
I don't recall. They
They
get something.
get some
yeah.
compensation under the contract, yeah.
So we could pay that, I'm not, I'm not an attorney, so
I
but it
don't-
just seems like it's a violation of some law or a FOIA at least, that the city pays a private company and then that company owns our public meeting
Because we
recording.
sold it to them, but sold the right for them to do that. So it doesn't violate FOI, it doesn't violate any laws. I want to be very clear about that. The city would have every right to make an agreement with them to say who owns the copyright to the recordings. I don't think we address that in the current situation that we have. I'd have to go back and look. But I want to remind everyone, we don't take things off the internet. And this is exactly what people are going to start thinking.
Right.
We did not take anything off the internet. And we do not ask for that. So that's really a question for the community television station that my understanding are the ones that made the complaint. Cassie, do you have any more?
She had enough.
Okay, well, she's the one, I don't remember who, oh, maybe you told me about it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I heard about it.
But I heard about it,
Fact.
I heard about it later on, so I don't have any first-hand information.
Well, maybe the council, we could come up with a resolution or an amendment to their contract and saying that.
I got it, hang on. We got to pull the contract and see what it says.
Okay, all right.
There's a time, just because we say, congratulations, your contract has now changed. They don't have to agree to that.
Right, okay.
And so we can look at that, but is this something the city wants to undertake? We want to sell copyright interest in our meeting broadcasts and
Yeah, because the question is the
I mean,
entire
anybody can-
meeting video still available online? It was just the portion that was cut was pulled down? So I think there's a lot of questions.
I'm not sure, yeah.
I don't know anything about
It just seems to me, and well, I'll just let you look at the contract and advise us. It just seems to me it's a public meeting and that video should be available to the public.
Or
That's-
maybe there should at least be like a permission structure, right? Because like if something
Yeah.
significant happened in like 4029 or CNN, right? I mean, like usually news is, they do borrow from each other, so there's a
Okay,
process
This
for
is a
that, right?
complicated area of law. There's this thing called fair use
Yeah.
in copyright. So we've opened the door, so I got to go in there.
Thanks.
So fair use says that certain people can use copyrighted materials for certain limited purposes or fair use. So in other words, a snippet for a news story. Something happened at a meeting, and the city got into recording, and they rebroadcast it. Educational uses are an exception. Parody is an exception. So I'm going to when I heard about, I guess somebody cut a piece of our meeting and then put some lewd comments, funny comments or something under it, and I don't even know what it was. It doesn't really matter. My first thought was, well, that could be considered a parody, making fun of someone, but we didn't exercise the copyright claim, so it wasn't for us to be concerned about. I don't know if the people who had their material taken down argued to Facebook that they had fair use as parody. I don't know. But
yeah, I don't know the entire
yeah,
story.
but
was
I
basically
really
found
resist the
out
idea
after
that
it
we are
was over.
assuming we all did something
Heard
wrong and
about it.
illegal.
Yeah.
Well, and the social media company would actually be the ones violating
Yes.
their rights in that case.
Well, there's all sorts of, it's late, guys. The meter ran out in my brain, okay? I'm gonna be honest with you. This is a complicated area of law. I gotta look at the contract. I don't recall if we addressed intellectual property rights to the recordings. That would dictate who had the right to make a copyright claim to anyone who made use of those broadcasts. I don't think we addressed it. I don't think we thought anyone would care. Because it was just, there it is recorded. So that's the best I can tell you.
That's good enough for me.
Okay.
It was brought to my attention. It sounded serious, so I wanted to address it. So.
I have no interest in it.
Well, we say that today, but with the internet and social media, I mean, our police departments are becoming high entertainment through not just ours, but all these body cams. There's some very compelling video people like to watch, not out of lewdness or anything like that.
No.
I mean, there's very informative, interesting stuff to watch, and so police departments are getting inundated with video requests, and so you know, I don't know that cities can claim copyright on that. This is something that we're going to have to, I'm sure as time goes, look into more.
Okay. All right, thanks for that.
Okay?
Okay, thank you. Our meeting, of course, is next Monday at 6 PM. Thanks for your attendance and attention.
They're called salt sticks.
What are they?
It's called salt